Hey everybody, John Steen here from Queen City Clay. I am talking to you today from my home studio in Bellevue, Kentucky, because we're running with a skeleton crew at the shop right now, just trying to have as few people there as possible to still keep it open. I know some of you are members and still have access to come in and work, and so we wanted to keep up with our instructional videos so you have some content and things to think about while you're practicing. And for those of you who are home and unable to come into the studio right now or don't feel comfortable coming into the studio right now, we've actually decided to rent about a dozen of our Brent CXC wheels. So you can check out our website, or if it's not on our website yet, give us a call at 871-2529. And as long as you're someone we know who's involved with the studio and leave us a credit card on file, you can take a wheel home so that way you can keep practicing in this kind of crazy time that we're dealing with. But I want to talk to you today about shaping. So I already have a cylinder thrown, and what I'm going to do is throw a bottle, turn it into a round form with a narrow neck, because that's one of the more difficult kind of forms to make. I throw standing at home because of the quantity of pots I'm working with, so that'll be a little bit different. And I'm using a Shimpo with a stick lever, so you'll see my hand down here. But I have a cylinder, pretty even walls, got about 2.5 pounds of clay here, and I haven't left a whole lot of extra clay in the bottom whatsoever. And now I'm ready to switch things up and use my rib. And the biggest mistake we see in the studio is that people are stacking their inside fingers directly against the center of that rib, when it really should be much higher, kind of towards the top here. And so I want to show you what that looks like and how to avoid getting a wobble while creating volume. I'm holding my rib with all 4 fingers and my thumb on the back side, so it's got a little bit of a flex to it. And I have the top of that rib leaning slightly ahead, so it's leaning slightly away from me. I'm going to start all the way down at the bottom and give my left hand a bit of a head start. So it's going to bring clay to the rib and come all the way up the rib before the two really start moving together. All right, so on this first pass, I'm mainly just focusing on getting the slip off of the surface and getting those throw rings calmed down a little bit. So I'm putting a little bit of water on the inside of my rim so my hand won't catch, keeping that left arm vertical, and it's my ring finger and middle finger gently pressing out at the bottom of that rib, bringing clay to the rib, and now I'm all the way up. My inside fingers are about here. They're right across from my index finger on my outside hand. Now the two of them can move up together. And you can see the rib starting to do not so great of a job. I have a little bit of texture here. That's because I've built up a good bit of slip. So I'm going to go ahead and get that off of there. You just want to make sure that if you're using a new rib and it's sharp, you're careful so you don't cut your hand. And I can pick up right where I left off. All right, so that's our first pass, just making that pot a little bit stronger, getting the slip off. Now to create volume, I need to give the clay somewhere to go. So I'm going to start at that same just shy of 90-degree angle to the pot with the top leaning slightly forward, but I'm going to lean the entire rib away slightly. So there's some negative space right here. I need to give the clay somewhere to go. I can't have my inside hand pushing and my outside hand with the rib pushing at the same time. Only one of them is really going to be applying pressure at a time. So right now, to create volume, that rib's going to lean away. I'm going to very slowly bring just my middle 2 fingertips on my left hand up the side, and my thumb is up higher on those fingers to keep my hand nice and narrow, but still keep those fingers strong and supported. And I'm going to slowly bring clay to the rib, and the rib's going to hold its ground. And we talk often in class about how clay is strong in 2 orientations, in a straight wall and in a soft curve. So that straight wall is pretty strong even when it's leaning. So you can see I'm leaning this wall way out here, but it's still straight. It's not acting like a bowl, it's more like a planter. And once I get to the top of that curve where I want it to terminate, I am going to really flex that rib, create some negative space here. You can see it, flashing a finger back and forth underneath. You can see the blue. That negative space right there, and I'm going to lift straight up from the inside to bring the clay to the rib. So I am transitioning the straight wall slowly into more and more of a soft curve. And on the next pass, I'm going to do the same thing. I lean the rib out, bring the clay to the rib, and come all the way up the rib. Once I'm at the top of the rib, the 2 hands move together. And once I get to where I want that curve to turn back in, when I want to stop creating volume, I'm going to flip the rib around, bend it, and bridge the gap all the way up to that shoulder and gently bring clay to the rib. And I can keep going lower and lower and lower as long as I have enough clay to do so. So on this next pass, I'm doing more of the belly, and on the last pass, I'll do a little bit more of the hip. So even though every single one of these passes happens from the bottom of the form up, I'm really creating that form from the top down. So we'll talk about shaping from the top down sometimes. My last pass here, I'm gonna just do a little press and really work the clay from that stride to the belly. Pot's starting to catch a little bit at the rim, so I'm just gonna drop a little water to the inside so my hand can slide. Now at this point, I've got some inconsistencies and some little dips because I'm talking. So I'm gonna do a very, very, very slow pass, lifting out against that rib to calm everything down and make sure that I'm happy with the silhouette of this pot before I start thinking of necking in this bottle into a smaller neck. And we're gonna do that in the next video. Thanks for watching.